The video I'm going to be showing you here is a video that can be found on BitChute if you type in Dr. Stanley Plotkin. And but to the best of my knowledge, it is not a video that is found on YouTube. Interestingly enough, until now, I guess, because I'll be showing it and commenting on it in a way that is, I understand, generally protected under fair use. But I just find it like it's pretty mind blowing. This guy, you type his name in. I invite you to do it. Type it into any search engine, and he's a genius. He's a renowned scientist and vaccinologist and so forth. Here he is in court under oath, and he is going to be asked a series of questions, as you'll see. And this is part of a much larger, apparently a much longer testimony that he gave. I don't know the case that it's connected with. I'll have to do a bit more research on that. But this 3-minute clip in itself is pretty shocking. So let's hear a little bit of it.
Have you ever used orphans to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used the mentally handicapped to study an experimental vaccine?
I don't recollect ever doing studies in mentally handicapped individuals. At the time, in the 1960s, it was not an uncommon practice.
So yes, it was strange that he hemmed and hawed with that particular one. He said, "I don't recall doing it, but experimenting on the mentally handicapped." But in the 60s, it was an accepted practice, and I'm guessing he was doing his research in the 60s. But when he asked the question, have you ever used experimental vaccines on orphans, he just said yes, and watched the whole series of questions that he answers in the affirmative that are to come.
There's an article entitled "Attenuation of RA27.3 Rubella Virus in WI38 Human Diploid Cells." Are you familiar with that article?
Yes.
In that article, one of the things it says is 13 seronegative, mentally retarded children were given RA27.3 vaccine.
Okay, well, then in that case, that's what I did.
Okay, so he does admit to it. He does finally admit to personally performing these experiments with this medication that he's testing, which obviously there's danger when you're testing something that hasn't been shown to be safe and effective, because otherwise why else would you be testing it? He's already said, yes, we experimented on orphans, yes, we experimented on mentally retarded people. He goes on.
Have you ever expressed that it's better to perform experiments on those less likely to be able to contribute to society, such as children with handicap, than with children without, or adults without handicaps?
I don't remember specifically, but it's possible.
Do you remember ever writing to the editor of Ethics on Human Experimentation?
I don't remember specifically, but I may well have.
Do you recognize this letter you wrote to the editor?
Yes.
Okay. Did you write this letter?
Yes.
Okay. is one of the things you wrote. The question is whether we are to have experiments performed on fully functioning adults and on children who are potentially contributors to society, or to perform initial studies in children and adults who are human in form but not in social potential.
Yes.
Okay. It may be objected that this question implies a Nazi philosophy, but I do not think that it is difficult to distinguish non-functioning persons from members of ethnic, racial, economic, or other groups.
Okay, so he writes this letter where he says it's better we need to find some people out there who are essentially useless eaters. That's the notorious phrase used by eugenicists. He doesn't use that phrase here, but that's what he's basically saying. People who are considered to be low functioning and considered to be less important, considered to be less important, less valuable. They're expendable, and they should be the ones we experiment on. He says, yes, we have. Yes, I have recommended doing that. This guy, Dr. Stanley Plotkin, you look elsewhere, again, you'll find, a great man, a knowledgeable man, he probably is knowledgeable, a hero in the field of medicine and vaccinology. Here he is saying these things.
Okay. Have you ever used babies of mothers in prison to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used individuals under colonial rule to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Did you do so in the Belgian Congo?
Yes.
Did that experiment involve almost 1 million people?
Well, all right. Yes.
Well, all right. Yes, 1 million people, give or take. Okay, so this is just wild. I mean, I know I'm maybe too easily shocked, but this is pretty wild and crazy to me that he's just putting this stuff right out there. This seems highly unethical. This has got to be illegal, doesn't it? But I guess it isn't. Strictly speaking, illegal, maybe. Or maybe these people just make up their own rules. I don't know. It's clear that the code of ethics that's practiced by these kinds of people is not the code of ethics that says, first do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath. This is the code of ethics that says we have people who are expendable for one reason or another because they're mentally handicapped or because they're the children of people who are in jail and thus, probably have a criminal propensity or an antisocial social propensity, or people who are orphans who have no family to speak of, or people who are living under colonial rule, like in the Belgian Congo. And he just says, yes, 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 yes. I mean, he hems and haws a couple times, but mostly he's pretty straightforward. Yep, that's what we do. That's what we've been doing. It's standard operating procedure. So what I'm left with in watching this is a certain conviction of, I'm left with certain questions. First of all, I'm not surprised because this is, the elites have a eugenicist perspective. They have this idea that the human race needs to become a race of thoroughbreds, and in order for that to happen, in the words of Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, and in order for that to happen, we need to We need to cull the herd, and this is these experimentations are these testing experimental vaccines. These are occasions to whereby we can cull the herd, because if these people that we experiment on, if their lives are shortened, if they become injured, debilitatedly injured, or if they just drop dead, they weren't true people anyway. They were lives unworthy of life. And I wonder if this trial was in 2018, and again, I don't know what it's connected with, but is he so frank about all of this? Is he so unabashed in his answers because he knows he's not going to suffer any legal blowback? Because, as I understand it, the creators of vaccines are free from being sued, free from the possibility of facing legal action. Is that why he's answering yes to these questions instead of declining to answer, instead of taking the fifth, which you would expect someone like that would do? Why is he so cavalierly answering yes to all of these things that should be criminal actions? And also, why, when you type in his name, Dr. Stanley Plotkin, elsewhere, any other place besides BitChute, you'll only find laudatory articles or interviews with him. You type in his name on YouTube, and all you're going to find, unless you run across this video, are this great man. He's going to give us his expertise now on the the pandemic. So anyway, I find this. I'm all too easily shocked. I know I'm too easily shocked. I can never quite get over just how shameless and how openly wicked some people are. This guy doesn't look like a bad guy. He just looks like some benign old man. But wow. Wow, just wow. That's all I can say, I guess. Let me know what y'all think. My name's Andy Nowicki. Please check out my work at altrightnovelist.com. And my latest book, The Insurrectionist, can be purchased at terrorhousepress.com.